It's not all about the bank account. Judge your friends on what they do when the camera's off. Judge your friends on how many real people they communicate with on a regular basis. That is what richness in life, I'm learning now, is about.
And I think it's really important to define friendship, because we're sitting here talking friendship, which is beautiful. It's like, but how do you know a real friend? A friend is someone who's committed to growing with you. There's people in our lives, especially in the past, that would much rather see us be pulled back down to who we used to be than who we can become.
What that's allowed all of us to do is to redefine what it means to be rich. Being rich doesn't just mean like, oh, it's like about the money or the car. It's about who you get to spend your time with. And I think that's what we've all gotten to discover through Pathos.
Most people, I think, are settling for a life less than what they were created for because it's easier. But when you choose bravery and courage, that opens your entire world up. And it gives you stuff that you really didn't know you needed, like brotherhood, like connection. Like, wow, I'm actually supported by people who I've never really had a long relationship with, but we're in the same energy. We're in the same mission of becoming.
If I'm not spending as much time with the people I love most in my life, I'm not winning.
An entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow. What's cracking?
A good place to start would be is community and how you guys have created this thing. You know, I think in today's day, because of those things, the cell phone community is really just like a lost art, you know, and so many men, I mean, it's November, it's Men's Mental Health Month, right? Like, you know, you kind of hear about it like, oh, men are lonely. And then like, sometimes you're like, oh, whatever, like cry me a freaking river, you know? But the fact is, it's true. It's true. Like a lot of men outside of college or outside of those early 20 years where like you're kind of forced into community are lost and lonely, you know, even married men, right? Like, and I could speak for myself here, like without intentionally creating community, like meaning like inviting men over to my house to hang out, or like actively looking for a group of men that are getting together once a week or twice a week. You work your ass off, you come home from work, you hang with your wife and your kids, you go to sleep, you work your ass off, you come home from work, you know, on the weekends, you hang with your wife and kids. And like, where is the time to like be with other men and like talk about things that men need to talk about? Because it's important. It's really important. You know, like there's, you know, and then, you know, kind of get into that conversation. Like I posted something on social media the other day about Men's Mental Health Month and like how, you know, like I didn't talk about loneliness necessarily, but I did talk about just like men need to communicate. Like we just need to, we're not good communicators. We are really good at just like bottling things up, holding it in, and then boom, somebody says something at the wrong time and then it explodes and, you know, you got to go back and pick up the pieces. And I think, and I got like, you know, a bunch of people DMing me, well, it's not just men. And I'm like, look, you know, like, I don't know what to say, you know, like men are having this problem right now. And a lot of it has to do with technology. You know, a lot of like all the work that we used to do was typically for, you know, hundreds and thousands of years outside, right? With other dudes getting your hands dirty. And now in the last 100 years, that's all been brought inside. And so a lot of us are sitting inside, typically behind a screen, and that's how, you know, and men are not judged on how many friends you have. You're not judged on, you know, maybe today more you're judged on how good a shape you're in, right? But that you can do that alone, right? You don't have to be in a community to get in great shape. You're judged on how much money you have, how many, you know, what your marriage is like, what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you live in. Like, that's what we're judged on. So those are the things that we all strive to be like, to build, right? Finances, family, the house, the car. But ultimately, none of that shit really matters at the end of the day if you hate your life, you know, because you're alone a lot of the time. And so I think that's a conversation that not enough people are having, because we should be judged on how many friends we have and the quality of those friendships. And I think what you guys are doing with Pathos is making that a priority, right? Like surrounding yourself with people. Even right now, we're in a group of 5 people about to chop it up, you know? And it's awesome to just see the bond that you guys have together, that you guys spend so much time together. And so, you know, I mean, I felt like kicking it off that way because of the month that we're in, and also just like how I have witnessed and seen what you guys are doing. Like that thing this morning that we did was so great, you know?
Yeah, dude, that was a heck of an opener. Let's go. And this is a much needed conversation. I'll kick it off to Ryan, and I'll just preface it with this. It's never clean. It's never a perfect process, you know? Like, we talked about iron sharpening iron and how important that is, how necessary it is, but that is a uncomfortable process with 2 blades, you know, rubbing up against each other, sharpening each other. It's not a perfect process. So it gets messy, and we're working on our own dynamics and relationships and telling each other the truth and being more real and having better communication, just like any other group or relationship. So I kick it off to you, Ryan, since this whole kind of group dynamic, specifically with the beach workout, started with you training alone.
Yeah. We really didn't even know that this was going to transpire into really what it has become. You know, it started with, you know, me just working out on the beach, tired of doing CrossFit, body wasn't feeling really well. This guy comes out. He was training for, I believe, a half or an Olympic try, brings his camera, takes a few photos. Another guy sees it. He comes out the next week, and then another guy, and then another guy. And once we started to create kind of like this container around what we were doing, we realized just what you were talking about. Like, there is a real sense and need for community. Otherwise, these men just wouldn't be coming out in the numbers that they were coming out. And it just exploded to 30 to 40 to 50 to 60 guys. And we just realized that, wow, there's something to this. There's something about creating a container and creating a space for men to come together, to share, to be vulnerable, to work out together, and just begin to really start to build community. And here we are, you know, 2 years later, and, you know, kind of a brand's been kind of born out of that. So I'm really proud of what we built. And yeah, I mean, you touched on it. I mean, men really are the loneliest that they have ever been. You know, we shared a New York Times article from a few months ago, just talked about statistically how many men are so lonely. And just as you talked about, like, you go through high school and you have this group of friends that filter out, and then you go through college, and then that filters out to even smaller. And then you get married, and that gets filtered out. And you're like really lucky to have 1 or 2 guys like in your life, really, that you communicate with on a daily or a weekly basis. And that's if you're lucky. Most men don't even have that one. Right? And, you know, how can you be your truest self when, I mean, guys need that outlet. They need that container and that space, you know, because it's almost like it's in our intuitive nature to be surrounded by masculinity, that hunter-gatherer, you know, mentality.
I love too that, like, there was no plan to this at all. Like, people are always like, oh, how do we start our own Pathos, and like, what's the business plan behind what you guys are doing and stuff. And like, that's kind of the most beautiful part, is that it was literally just one person out on the beach working out, deciding to like better themselves. which attracted other people. And people always reach out to me. Ryan knows, like, on our social media, we get 10 messages a month that say, like, oh, I want to start a Pathos. And mine, I'm kind of like, oh, I wish I had something like that. Ryan, you guys are so lucky. Like, we don't have a Brian, we don't have a Colin, we don't have a Ryan, we don't have a Josh. Where I live, you're so lucky. But it's like, we didn't have that either until one person decided to go out and betting themselves, and then that attracts other people. And I think I always tell people, like, if it can happen in Sarasota, it can happen anywhere. Because if you don't know much about Sarasota, like, there's a retired community of old people, bless them, but, like, it's not a place where you would imagine 80 jacked dudes working out on the beach every week. So I always tell people, like, it is possible to find those people. You just gotta be willing to better yourself and attract those types of people, because they do exist wherever you are in the world.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, I've been lucky enough to chat with people that have lots and lots and lots of success and money, financial success, and the conversation that I've had with them has never been like, oh yeah, I'm done. I've done it. It's always like, more. I need more. And so when you really boil that down, like, you know, I can speak for myself, right? Like, starting a business for the first time when I was 28, having the thing take off like wildfire, going from bartending in restaurants to having one of the, like, hottest restaurants in New York City, to then scaling it. You know, I kind of look at it like, if the journey there is not, if you're not present for the journey, right? Where you're just like constantly moving, like thinking about the next, and then all of a sudden you find yourself at the top of this mountain. Like, how much time do you spend up there? Because everybody's like, oh yeah, like that's where you got to go. You got to get to the top, right? But like, once you're there, you like look to your left, you look to your right, maybe you give a high five and a hug, and you like walk back down. You know what I'm saying? And you're just like, all right, like there's a taller one, you know? And so I think really where like being happy, being successful in life is really like times that you spend with your friends. Like, if you're not, for me, and I should stop speaking in the if you're not, like, if I'm not spending as much time with the people I love most in my life, I'm not winning. I believe that. And that's why, you know, like on the beach, one of the girls who was there came up to me, and she's an entrepreneur. She started a little business. She was talking to me about, you know, entrepreneurship, and, you know, I explained to her that I haven't felt successful as an entrepreneur up until just recently, when I learned how to draw real boundaries in my life. It was all about the work for a long time, and now for the last like 3-4 years, I have a start time and an end time, and on either side of the start and the end is family time. Those lines were completely blurred for at least a decade, where it was just like, I fit my family in when I can, and it wasn't intentional. It was just like, I thought I was doing the right thing. But now it's like, no, I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day to be able to get 2 hours in before my wife and kids wake up, because I know I also can't sacrifice my well-being, right? So like, if I want to be selfish and be in great shape and do the saunas and the cold plunges and the fucking red light therapies and the, you know, like, if I want to do that stuff, which I do selfishly, like, it makes me feel good, like I'm able to do that, but I'm not going to sacrifice the time with my family to do it. So I wake up super early, I get that stuff done, and at 7 o'clock in the morning, my wife and kids are just getting up, and it's boom, like I'm in there with them from 7 to 8, 8:15 till I take the kids to school. And then from 8 to 5:30, I work. And 5-6 years ago, if I would have told you that I was like a 9 to 5er, because I am, there's a reason why 9 to 5 works, right? And we you know, that the 9 to 5 thing has always been like, oh, 9 to 5, you know, like you don't really care about your job. You're just a 9 to 5, or you clocking in, you clocking out. No. Like there's a reason why 9 to 5 was set up. It's a rhythm, but it's also like, hey, you're supposed to live your life too, right? Like, what's the point of putting in the work if you're not enjoying your life, right? Does it make sense to work from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night? And then by the time you're done, you've got no time for anybody else. Your wife wants to sit down and talk with you about your day. You're like, I don't want to talk about my day. I'm done. I want to go to bed, you know? And so one thing that my wife and I have started doing probably about a year ago, which was super helpful and powerful for our relationship and our marriage and our bond, was every night after dinner, the kids, you know, go off and do what they want to do. And we sit at the dinner table for a half an hour and we just jam. You know, she talks about her day, I talk about my day. Prior to that, I don't think my wife knew anything about my life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like this dude that she lives with that just disappears during the day and like shows back up and kind of just like picks up where we left off at breakfast, you know? And so now, you know, like I have this time with her. But I like, as I'm evolving as a human and as an entrepreneur and just as a person, I'm just leaning more and more towards this idea that like success is not about what you have financially, what you can see with your eyes. Success is how you feel about yourself, you know, and like what makes me feel the best. When my little son walks up to me and says, Dad, I love you more than anything in the world. You're the best daddy in the world. And I'm just like, boom, that's it. I don't need like, what else do I need? Like legitimately, if my son, and he's, you know, they're smart, but they're real. Those kids are real, right? Like they're not fabricating to like, you know, if my son walks up to me and gives me a hug and says, Daddy, I love you more than anything else in the world, like he means that. That's worth more than any business acquisition for me. Because chances are, if all I was focused on was the acquisition, selling my company, that kid wouldn't roll up and say, Dad, I love you more than anything in the world. And that's all I want. I want my son to love me more than anything in the world because I love that kid more than anything in the world. And I know that that is where I am my best. I feel my best. That doesn't mean that I have to sacrifice my health. Doesn't mean that I don't have to work out. That means that I have to maybe sacrifice some time, wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. But guess what? If I go to bed at 9:30, waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning is like piece of cake, you know?
If I may, to add to that, what I love about this group, these guys right here, is that they remind me of the truth of what you said, that success is not a what, but it's a how. It's the way you approach life. It's the way you show up, right? It's the energy you give to other people. And it's the approach you have to the tasks and to the actions that you take for the day. So the payoff on the business side, that doesn't mean you're successful if you went about it the wrong way. So with Pathos specifically, I'm so fortunate to be able to be in that container almost every week. And, you know, life happens, kids and things happen, so I'm not there every week. But every time I go, I'm never disappointed because it's not just movement, although that is medicine. That will make your day better. It's not just even conversations, because that's the same thing. It makes my day better when I conversate and meet new people. But it's the whole package. You're doing something hard with other people. You're making new connections. And then we always drive down to this intentional, whether it be spiritual or metaphors or this life lesson type of feel. And that's a game changer. And what it's allowed me to do is to, and I think this is where we're going too. I mean, I could be wrong, but you could be surrounded by people at work or on teams or wherever you are, but still feel isolated.
Alone.
And for me, yeah, that feeling of aloneness came from me not being willing to show who I am and to be real with someone, you know, and to be myself. So it was to the extent that I was willing to like really see someone and have them see me, was the extent that I connected with that person and felt seen. So it takes bravery. And I think that's what it's a top value for all of us, bravery, living courageously. Because, yeah, most people, I think, are settling for a life less than what they were created for because it's easier. It's more automatic. It's just more natural. I'm going to work really hard in the business and kind of let everything else go. But when you choose bravery and courage, that opens your entire world up. And it gives you stuff that you really didn't know you needed, like brotherhood, like connection. Like, wow, I'm actually supported by people who I've never really had a long relationship with, but we're in the same energy. We're in the same mission of becoming. So, I mean, I want to hear from Flo selfishly. It's like, you can take it however you want. You can go off that or what Michael was saying, but you got 3 kids, so you have the most kids out of everyone here. How do you navigate time with like-minded people? Because you have a lot of things on your plate. But
yeah, I think we moved here. And I don't want to say like only for Pathos. Sarasota, Florida is a beautiful place. Like the beach is a plus, the weather's great. But like I came here 3 years ago with my family on a trip just for like a month. We wanted to move. We were in the Midwest in Oklahoma. We wanted to like just kind of explore and get out somewhere new. For my wife and I, that was close to the water. And I told her, I said, look, I've been to Sarasota, Florida. Let's try it out. And she was like, isn't that where like a bunch of old, like retired people live, And I said, like, I promise you, like, there's guys down there. Like,
there's at least 3.
There's at least there's at least 3 guys. So we came down. I met Josh. I met Brian. And then Josh texted us like almost, I think it was like the last week I was here. And they were like, hey, there's this guy that meets up at the beach on like Thursday mornings just to do this workout. I'm doing it to train for a triathlon. Like, let's go check it out. We all go. Unbeknownst to any of us, that was like our first, all 4 of us being together. And I remember specifically looking at Ryan afterwards, and I was like, listen, I know you don't want to turn this into a business. I know you're not trying to do anything with this, but I would have paid you a lot of money for what you just put us through because I felt so impacted by it. I felt like the value was there. And we still, to this day, do all of our events, here locally every Thursday. They're free. We want that to stay a container, especially for men, to build community, to build connection. But I think what that's allowed all of us to do is to redefine what it means to be rich. Growing up, I think like you superficially have this definition of like you talked about, right? The cars, the house, the job, the money, being able to afford like to take vacations with your family, all these things. But like my definition of being rich has since evolved since I moved here. I got connected with these guys, been a part of Pathos every single week. And that is being able to have the freedom to spend my time with the people I love the most. Very similar to what you just talked about. That's time with my wife and my kids, obviously, like first and foremost, but like having the capacity to be able to go spend time with my friends. I mean, how lucky are we? And then getting to go do that in this setting on the beach, doing something hard together every Thursday morning with that group of men, setting the intentionality at the end, and then just being able to connect with other men. Dude, like that 1 hour fills up us and so many guys. And the connections that have been built around Pathos, we've got guys starting businesses together out of the fact that they met at Pathos, going to work in office spaces together, like in all walks of life. So I think the power there is like everyone understanding like being rich doesn't just mean like, oh, it's like about the money or the car. It's about who you get to spend your time with. And I think that's what we've all gotten to discover through Pathos. At least that's how I felt. And that's what drew my wife and I here and why we are raising our family here now.
I kind of look at it and listen to you guys and, for whatever reason, fun has kind of been like looked at as like a lazy person's pastime, right? Oh, like if fun is a pillar in your life, like, it's never gonna, it's like it's just kind of like a nomad, traveling around, like living in a van, like
these guys don't have responsibility.
You sound like my father-in-law speaking to me right now.
But like, who knows if you get one time around, right? It's kind of unclear. But if it is one time around, like have as much fun as you can. Have as much fun as you can, right? And like, yeah, it's awesome to have goals and to like push hard and hit the freaking gas, but also like have the self-awareness to like live your life and with a smile, like enjoy, like live it and enjoy it, you know? And I just, as I'm getting, you know, older, which I am, man, I'm getting older. It's weird, you know? Like
You're getting wiser.
I'll start using that. But I just want to have more fun, man. I want to have more fun. Like, I want to hunt more. I want to go on more vacations. You know, I had this guy on my podcast like 4 years ago. This dude, Gino Wickman. He created this business called Entrepreneurial's Operating System, EOS. A lot of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial networks, and they apply his system.
Is that Traction, the book? Yeah.
What?
Was that Traction?
Yeah, exactly. And so I had this guy on the podcast, and I was talking to him. You know, looking at this guy's life from the outside, you're like, this dude is super successful financially, right? Had the guy on the podcast, read his book, had him on the podcast. And one of the first things he said was, oh, I take 150 days off a year, off. And I was like, looking at him sideways, like walk me through that.
Yeah,
What do you mean by that? And he was like, well, I'll break it down to you real simply. He's like, I take every weekend off. So that's 104 days right there. Boom. 52 times two. 104 days I take off every year. I do not work on the weekends, period, done. And I was like, I'm going to start doing that. And then he was like, I take the month of August off. And I was like, okay, I could try to figure out how to work that into my life.
It's a big one.
Yeah. And then he was like, I take at least 2 10-day vacations a year with my family. So I was like, all right, so no working on the weekends, 2 10-day vacations, and the month of August. I'm just here to say now, I am so close to that. I am scratching the surface of that. And I used to, like, I would feel bad. Like, not personally. Like, I would feel judged by saying that out loud. Oh, yeah, like, you know, I work from 8:30 to 5:30. I take 2 10-day vacations. I take the month of August off. And guess what? I never work on the weekends. Now I say that with fucking pride. Yeah. Like, I do not work on the weekends. And guess what? Team Creatures of Habit, I do not expect you to work on the weekends. Oh, yeah, and guess what? I do not expect you to respond to emails or write emails after 6 o'clock at night. If you choose to work on the weekends, go for it. Like, go for it. But I'm also gonna check you if I feel like you're getting burnt out. Like, if you're burning the candle at both ends, I don't want you on the team. If you can't control your ability to like pause and push the brakes, I don't want you on the team, because that energy is gonna bleed into other things that we're doing. And I do believe in this like balanced life. I don't, when you see some of these hard chargers be like, this work-life balance thing isn't real. I'm like, that's BS. It is real. And if it's not real for you, I would love to hear the thoughts in your head on the 13th hour on a Tuesday, when everybody else in your life is like somewhat enjoying themselves and you're just out to lunch. And even if you are there at the table, you're like, because all you think about is your work. So I'm not saying that I'm slowing down. I'm saying that I'm actually speeding up, and I'm speeding up because I want like, when it's all done, I don't want people to talk about the businesses I've created. I want them to be like, I want my sons to be like, my dad was bench pressing 225 pounds in 90, you know? And like, there's no way to get there if all I do is think about my business. You know, I want my kids to say the greatest times of my life were with my dad. I want my kids to get older and have their families and, you know, can't wait to get home to their mom and dad's place for the holidays. Like are stoked to pack the car and get on the flight or wherever. Hopefully they're not that far away, but, you know, get home on the holidays to spend time with us. Like, that's what I want. That's what I want. You know, like, does it matter if I have the biggest house and the greatest cars? Like, it would be great. It would be great. But I think we as men are judged on those things. And I think that is probably the conversation that needs to be had most. What could we start saying in the, you know, because everybody at this table is influential. Everybody here's got a following, right? Of men typically that want to emulate you. They like look at you and say, this is one of the guys that I just kind of like want to kind of follow in the footsteps of. And so if we all commit to saying, hey, like, it's not all about the bank account. Judge your friends on what they do when the camera's off. Judge your friends on how many real people they communicate with on a regular basis. That is what richness in life, I'm learning now, is about, you know?
Have you heard of the quote by Simon Sinek about friendship?
I don't know.
And I think it's really important to define friendship, because we're sitting here talking friendship, which is beautiful. It's like, but how do you know a real friend? A friend is someone who's committed to growing with you. A friend is someone who's committed to growth. I think we all know there's people in our lives, especially in the past, that would much rather see us be pulled back down to who we used to be than who we can become. It's that crabs in the bucket. You have your hometown friends or your old friends or whoever it may be, new friends, but they'd much rather see you stay back here than to step into your potential. And I love the idea of the real reward, the real prize is not the money. It's not the car. It's not the vacations, although those are memories for the families, but it's the person you're becoming. And you do the things that help you become more the person you're becoming. You surround yourself with the people who remind you of who you can be, who you are, right? And they commit to growth with you. And you think the thoughts that are in line with that vision of who you are. And then to know, and I'll pass it back to you, Ryan, is to know that we as men, in a culture that defines us by what we do, how well we do it, and the metrics around those two things, to know who we are as men, as humans, is so much deeper, more powerful. Like, at the end of the day, we can't be defined by those things, but that's what culture tells us. That's who we are. So it's growing with the knowledge of who you are and your essence as a human being, loved, created on purpose for a purpose, that at least for me has really given me this anchor to then approach work and approach achieving in the best way possible.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And I love the fact that you spoke on like getting back to enjoying life and having fun. Yeah. And that word is something that resonates with me, and I think with Pathos. It is a pillar of what we try and invoke in the community, but not just fun, like finding that childlike wonder again, right? Because we've talked about this often. It's like, really think about when you were your purest self, non-judgmental, lighthearted, not a care in the world, non-judgmental. It's like, when were you that? When you were a kid, when you could just go out and just be who you were as a kid. And I think that's what's so important about like invigorating that within the community, to just remember that it's about unbecoming all of these things that we have become and these expectations as men, as you talked about, and really breaking it down and just getting back to that self. And that doesn't mean like go and not be responsible in your life, but invoke that wonder again and live with that, right? And when you do that, I mean, I think life just becomes a little bit more lighthearted. Love is easier to enter into your heart. And yeah, I mean, that's why we do like the best day of the month. You come out, like we're limboing, we're egg tossing, you're working in teams like kids. Yeah, you know, you're bear crawling together. You're piggybacking each other through lines. It's like, when was the last time that you did that? The last time I raised that question to the group, had one guy get second grade, like second grade, he's a 30-year-old man. Like, I think that's important to get back to that.
And it's given ourselves permission to be happy. That's what I hear. Because as grown men, we don't give ourselves permission to be happy or to enjoy the work. And that state of work, as you're enjoying and taking a playful approach to work, that might be the peak of success. You're enjoying the tasks or the responsibilities or things that you're working on. Like that's a beautiful way to do it. And for men, I mean, at least for me, I think it's giving myself permission to play and to be happy. I can be my own biggest fan, or I can be my own biggest prison. You know, I can just stifle, I can stop, I can guard and protect. But we're talking about living wholeheartedly. We're talking about having fun and enjoying the process. We all have the inner child that we can tap into and say, you know what? I'm going to give you permission. Like be who you are and be real and have fun. And that's a muscle that grows. I believe that inner child like energy will grow as you just have the courage to just tap back in. Small little action there, and Pathos does give us that opportunity.
It's easier to be the guy who doesn't do that. Like, I think what you were saying about, like, people look at the guy who's, like, someone like you who's going having fun and, like, taking days out to work. They look at you like, oh, that's the easy route. But I think that's the way harder route. The easy route was to be the status quo, to not be vulnerable with guys, to not be like a child, to not put yourself out there. Like, I think it's so easy to fall into this rhythm of life of being successful, what the world defines successful. It's way harder to say, like, actually, I don't define that as success. This is what I define as success. And it's kind of funny that we've gotten like, so far away from what's natural. Like you were saying, like, we're so lucky and fortunate to have this. Like, that's a crazy concept. That this is so rare.
Yeah.
You think about like the tribal guys that you're talking about, them out hunting every day. Like, if they looked at our lives and like, they have to schedule time to go hang out with each other and they have to go on the beach. So they laugh at us, you know, like that used to be a part of our everyday life. So like, the fact that we're so far disconnected from that is crazy. And I think you're right. I think it takes people like us and people with influence and stuff to say like, hey, that's not real success. Like, this is what real success looks like. It's being comfortable, being communion with your brothers, living a life that's full of love to your family and your brothers, quantum growth.
Yeah, I mean, I also kind of think about like, you know, like what makes us unique as humans, right? There's maybe a handful of living beings that are capable of loving, right? We're one of them, humans. I think dolphins, elephants, and maybe whales are the others. And when you look at like what God gave us, this ability to actually love, right? I mean, it's God-given, right? Like we were put here at the end of the day, ultimately to love. That is our number one priority, love and procreate, right? And so we have this ability to communicate. The best way to love and be loved is to communicate. It's how you do it. You find someone, you make little ones, you know, you have a parent, you know, like you the love is exchanged, this currency, what we were given as a very unique characteristic as our makeup. And a lot of us just like not prioritizing because of where this sort of society is driving us, right? And so I you know, I guess the conversation is not to just like drop it all and love and live on the road, you know? But it's no surprise, right? When the world was sort of hit like an absolute, like crashed and burned in 2020, what did all sorts of people do? They were like, all right, well, it looks like nobody can work right now. Let's go have fun. Let's buy a van and hit the road, right? Like that, I was like, I put a smile on my face to see that happening, you know? So I do think, you know, it's such a dream conversation to have, right? To be like, all right, we got to just love more and we got to have more fun. But at the end of the day, really, like, what would make this world a better place? Love more, have more fun. you know? And like, luckily for people like us, we find fun in taking care of ourselves, right? Getting after in the gym. Like, there's really, I can't think of a place outside of like sitting in front of the fire with my wife and kids and enjoying life that way. Like, I can't think of a more fun place to be than training hard. Like, I love to train hard. I love to challenge myself. It saved my life, and it saves my life on a daily basis. So when I get asked by people, whether it's in person or on social media or whatever, like, hey, I'm struggling. I need to find direction. My first question is, all right, well, what time did you go to bed last night? Like, that's the question I ask. They're like, what is that? Yeah. And I'm like, well, let's rip it all back down to the basics, right? Like, you go to bed early, you wake up early. You wake up early, you get a bunch of time to take care of yourself. That's where it starts, And then once you start taking care of yourself, because this was my story, I was the most selfish person in the world when I was addicted to drugs and alcohol, and also hated myself more than anything in the world. It was like this insane, weird juxtaposition of love. Hated myself more than anything, but was so selfish because I didn't care about anybody else. And so once I like just sort of was able to like, by the grace of God, like push that stuff to the side, I was told and taught like, all right, we got to bring it right back down to the basics, man. You got to just start taking care of yourself. And then once you start taking care of yourself, fitness, nutrition, mindset, you start to feel successful. You start to feel confident. You start to be able to take risks in a positive way. This idea that I kind of came up with, like the 3 C's, which is like, you commit. Commitment breeds confidence. Confidence breeds courage. Those 3 things in that succession. You start at night and go to bed early. Like, this is like sort of my kind of master plan for myself. Go to bed early, wake up early. Wake up early, have the time, commit to the things that you're going to do in that time. And then boom, everybody else days start at 7:00 and you've already won. You've won way before everybody else. And like, imagine 1% of the world started living that way, like we'd be in a different place,
I think, to your point, we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know how good it feels to take care of ourselves until we start doing it, and then how addicted you can become to growing and to taking care of yourself. So the question becomes, do you think most men love and respect themselves enough to take care of themselves? I think that's a big question. I think because we can know the things to do. We live in the ChatGPT information 10.0 world. We know everything. Do we not? We can know everything. We may not know the shape of the world, the shape of the earth. Josh is a flat earther. No, I'm kidding. But
I'm out of here, man. I'm gonna go there.
Yeah.
But maybe we do. But the point being is we have all the information, man. It's out there. We need less information. We need more transformation. And I believe transformation starts with the man in the mirror. It starts with how you see yourself. And nothing changed my world faster and more powerfully than having my first daughter. I've told it before, but I'll switch it up. Like the angle, when we took her home, I looked in this girl's eyes and I'm like, man, I would die for you. I would die for you. And I'm going to live for you. But I wish you could know how loved you are. I think we all with kids want that. With spouses, we want our loved ones to know how much we love them. Because I know I don't speak my wife's love language enough and as well as I should and as well as I want to. But I want them to feel that. And so it dawned on me, though, like the only way she could experience how loved she is if she saw herself through daddy's eyes. So when that clicked, I'm like, dang, dude, okay, that's true for Gianna. I was once that little boy. I was once that little miracle. And regardless if my parents loved me in the same way I love my daughter, that's who we are in essence, right? So it's having that amount of love and respect for yourself to then take care of yourself in the best way. And that's what's really opened my world up. It's like, if I can just choose to love and respect myself, to take care of myself, to show of who I am and give myself away to people, like that makes me really, I feel really full. I feel really full and full of life when that happens. So, I think if guys can tap into that love and respect for themselves, that's a game changer, because you start building into who you are and you can give a lot more when that's happening. So it's not information, it's transformation that happens through seeing yourself from a higher perspective.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I we were talking about it earlier. I hosted this men's retreat. It was my first men's retreat that I ever hosted. And 30 guys showed up. And we kicked off the retreat on a Thursday night, 30 guys around a fire. And the idea was everybody was just going to get up and introduce themselves, say who they are, why they, how they found out about it and why they were there. And the first guy stood up. Within a minute of talking, just explosion of tears. Second guy, explosion of tears. Third guy, it was like a tear party. And it just dawned on me, like, how much we suppress, how little freedom we feel as men to be able to just share openly about what is going on in between our own two ears, because like life is a perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like, this could all be a hologram. Who the hell knows, right? But like, it's just about what's going on right here. Like, this is how we live, we walk through life. And, it's not that, it's really, when you break it down, like, it's not that difficult. You get a bunch of dudes together. Everybody's got things that they want to talk about and they want to unload. And there's just not a lot of space for it, And so you talk about self-love and self-respect, like any dude that's listening to this podcast, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of them talking to you, bro. Like, if you're feeling derailed and like off the beam and just trying to like grasp for whatever's around, go to bed early, wake up early, start with that. Like, that could very well be the change that you need, right? And then doing that, you kind of find things to do in that early morning time, which is like, look, I've also been leaning like just deep into God recently. God has just been showing up like and not, for years for me, it was God and it was the universe, because that's what I was kind of taught in the 12-step program. It was like very non-religious, non-secular, just like God of your understanding. Most recently, Jesus has been showing up in my life, just all over the place, through people, in the sky, in my prayer, just showing up. And so I'm just leaning into it, And those early morning hours between 5 and 7 a.m. for me, that's like, I feel like that's like God's time. It's just weird. But I'm just like, this is time that I've just been, like, this is the time where I get to truly connect, and develop the relationship and like show up for the person that God wants me to show up for, so that I could be at 7 o'clock in the morning when those two little kids show up in their pajamas. And all I want to do is just like chew on their faces. Like, I'm there. I'm there like God would want me to be there, And if you're not in a relationship, or you don't have kids, or, like, that person that you got to show up for at 7 o'clock in the morning is you, dude. Like, you, and whether God's a thing for you or not, like, we have a choice, 9 out of 10 times. And look, mental illness is a real thing, right? Like, I know that's true, but really, like, you could live in this, I'm a depressed person. I have clinical depression. You don't understand. Like, I cannot get out of bed. Because I've also been given that noise too, when I'm saying, hey, just like fucking do it. Like, you are the one that has control. You can control it. You can set a go to bed alarm. You can do it. At 9:30, that alarm goes off. Get into bed and close your eyes. Listen to an audiobook. Do something. That way, because ultimately we have the ability to do the things that we aspire to when we see other people doing it. And there's only one person standing in the way of us and that's us. And so if you're banging your head against the wall thinking that somebody's going to show up with a silver platter of awesome life for you, like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's a hologram. Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. Like if anybody listening to this podcast is like takes anything away, just know that you have everything you need. You got everything you need. It's all available, and I think like if we can get in the ears of men and just let them know that, like, if you based your whole entire life on how much money you make, or what other people think of how much money you make, or what other people think of how much money you have, because let's get real here, right? It's all about money. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is it. That status, it's money. It's like, it's where society has pointed us as men to judge our lives on, right? How much money we have. And like, it's not yours. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was excited to have this conversation and talk about these things, because I just know that there's so much more left on the table for so many people that are battling in this loneliness time, right? Like,
When you kick the podcast off, I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to this. Like, we've lost control. We were just talking about this yesterday. We've lost control over our ability to, like, put our phones down. It's keeping you up late at night. It's distracting you throughout the day from, maybe connecting with other people. Like, how often do you sit there on the couch for 30 minutes and like, I just need to scroll for a little bit? No, you don't. Like, when have you ever felt better doing that? I know I have literally never walked away from, like, sitting there scrolling, consuming other people, doing things. I mean, there's a time and place. I understand that. But also, it's like, if you're someone who's got your back up against the wall, it's like, this, to me, like, in modern day society, is the first thing that you got to get in check.
you might as well just get a shovel and start digging deeper.
I agree.
That's
I'm like,
just
dude,
you're
break
just
the
gonna
damn
go
thing and get a
deeper,
flip
deeper,
phone,
deeper.
like, cause it's like that. I look at my screen time a lot, and I got this app called Social Limits. It literally keeps me off of my social media every morning until I've hit 2,000 steps. And you can set it to 5,000 steps, but it's like the whole premise behind that. And I know the guy who started it, but it's like, it's such a good idea. Cause I'm like that. It's like, hey, the premise is get up, chase real dopamine, move your body, go for a run, go for a walk, like get in the gym, like do anything to move your body. For me too, like those early sacred hours in the morning, like that keeps me away from this, helps me focus on me, helps me sit down. It helps me journal, make my coffee, read a book. And then when my kids are up, right, like I'm ready for them. I'm like there for them, I'm present with them, versus being distracted, having my eyeballs on a screen versus like, on them, connecting with them. Yeah, like in the real world. So I think like a lot of that loneliness, particularly with men, like ties back to that, like gaining control over this thing that is literally designed to dominate your attention. Looking at this and going like, dude, put it in a lockbox if you have to. Like freaking set an alarm on your watch. It's like whatever you have to do to get away from your phone, I think is it. And we just talked about this. Like I literally just started yesterday. I'm like, I am going to go 2 weeks. My wife encouraged me to do this. It's like no scrolling, just creating. Because that's my job. I do social media. I know not everybody listening to this podcast does social media, but like part of what I've been struggling with is being creative. Being like creating from a place of authenticity, being myself, like pulling out of, who I am, and like then kind of reflecting that in the content that I produce. And I think anytime I've gone through a creative rut, the first place I look is like, how much am I scrolling right now? And I was talking to my wife the other night. She goes, why don't you just try it for 2 weeks? Don't scroll. Just get on, create, post, whatever, then get off. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, that's a good idea. And I told him yesterday, I'm like, I'm going to start tomorrow. Like literally we had the conversation 2 nights ago. I'm like, all right, so I did it yesterday. I'm doing it today. Dude, more present with my kids, more present with myself. I've read the past 2 mornings in a row, haven't been reading the past like month. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you can already see, it's like, wow, there are minutes in the day to do these things. There's minutes in the day to like pour into yourself, to spend time on yourself. We've got a 6-week-old, 2 other toddlers. Like our life is very chaotic at home right now. If you can find that like margin, that, you know, little bit of peace in the day to spend on yourself, like that to me is like all worth it. So you got to put something down.
And talk about like, talk about like false perspective of success too. Like if all you're doing is looking at other people's perfect life, like, yeah, you're going to feel alone and like you're just grasping for stuff. I think that's the beautiful part about this is like, none of us have the answers, and that's the most beautiful part. Like we're all in this together, and I think like when you're talking directly to the guy who's listening to this, it's like we're all waiting to you. Like we're all trying to figure it out. You're not alone. I think so many guys feel alone, and they can look at someone like you guys, feel like, oh well, that's easy for him to say. He's got a thriving business, beautiful family, he's fit, but it's like that's why it's amazing that you share. Like, no, I've been through it. I'm still going through it. Like I still have struggles. And that's the beautiful thing about Pathos is like seeing these guys get up in front of everyone, like someone like Brian, who from the outside looks like he's got it all figured out, go up there and say like, be vulnerable with everyone. That's, I think, an insanely powerful thing about Pathos and just about Redefining in general is like, oh, I'm not alone. Like other people are going through this. And like just that alone is like enough to keep you going, like to make you want to be better. I don't think anyone has to have the answers to like, this is how you get better at life. It's just like, I'm struggling too. It's like, oh, okay.
The beauty of that though is that like we all start somewhere, you know, like we all have to start somewhere. I was lucky that I wasn't forced, but I was lucky that at 23 years old, I overdosed on heroin. I'm grateful for that because that forced me to start doing what I do now then. So I got a head start on this life that I've been working towards building. You know, they say like, what's the best time to plant a tree? Like yesterday, right? Like we all start somewhere. We all start somewhere. And unless you're born into a billionaire family, and even then you probably have a lot of stuff going on, like you got to start somewhere. And so I think, you know, because I have had that a lot where, oh yeah, easy for you to say, like, you know, you got that. And I'm like, yeah, by the way, like I started flatlined dead. That's where my story started, you know? And like I had nothing, zero. I think I looked at my credit score like 6 months after I got sober and it was like a 300, you know? And I was just like, fuck, what do I do? But you know, like we all start somewhere. And I think this conversation is like, hey, what does that look like? You know, like what does it look like? You could be 50, 60 years, 70 years old, and not feel like you've started yet. But guess what? Life is a 24-hour period of time. Yesterday's is history. There's nothing you can do. And tomorrow, it's not always guaranteed, right? So like you got 24. Today's the day. It's just like today's the day. You know, like you don't have to live, whether it's drugs and alcohol, whether it's phone addiction, sex addiction, porn, whatever it is, like there's a lot of things to distract us. There's a lot of ways out. There's a lot of ways to numb it, you know? We're strong people. We're human. I think it's like 1 in 10 billion or something like that, odds of actually making it here as a human. Like, you've already won, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've won. You are winning. You're alive. Like, now all you got to do is just, like, take a breath. Like,
Dude, Simon Sinek has I think he said it on a podcast. He said, what if you woke up every day and you lived life as if you've already won? And it, like, that to me hit me because I'm, like, classic, like, achiever. I want to be the best at whatever I'm doing. Sports, school, everything. It's like, dude, like when you look back, did you ever celebrate the successes you had along the way? And I think like if you wake up every day and you're like, dude, I've already won. Like I'm living a great life. And maybe someone, you know, listening to this like might not be there, but I think there are probably a decent amount of people who are just not happy, even though they've got a great setup. Finding that contentment of like, dude, I've already got it really good right now. How do we optimize this?
Having those moments, you know, like I really do think so. I'm about to buy the Light Phone 3. Have you heard of this thing?
No, I have not.
So the Light Phone 3, it's a dumb phone.
Oh,
So it's
speaking my
basically a
language.
phone. It's just like a Kindle. So it doesn't have the blue light. And it's got a phone you can text, and it's got like a kind of keyboard like that. It's got a GPS. It's got like an alarm, and I think you can read a book on it, and that's it. And
sign me up.
yeah.
Call this a brand partnership.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. But like that, like that would be such a great story to like, you know, unfortunately the phone is so damn expensive. And the problem with the flip phone is that you like going back to like the texting, like, like, I don't want to do that. I'm not going that far. But this light phone thing is it like, I just know it's going to change so much, right? Because the phone is such, it is, in my opinion, it's the detriment of humankind. I just believe that at my core. Because like you said, every single time you open that thing, it makes you feel bad about where you're at. And it doesn't matter how far down the road you are in success. There's always going to be, every fourth swipe, someone who's just doing it better. Or at least looks like they're doing it better. You know what I'm saying? And you're just like, damn, man, like I'm in great shape. But that dude's in great shape. I got this, that, you know.
Well, you've seen how the Brian stuff is all Photoshop. I haven't seen the most. Yeah.
Well, that's why I hired him. This man's gifted.
So, you know, what a great combo. You know, powerful.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Huge reminders, dude. Yeah, I think that's. I think what I'll end with personally is that I know I'll speak for myself, and I believe this to be true of all men, but my potential, my God-given potential, is way too important to live life on snooze or to not wake up to that and chase it. And what we just talked about is distraction and this slow burn into just like wooing us to sleep. But if I knew the fraction of my true potential, oh, buddy, I'd be up and at 'em. I wake up clear-minded. I go about my business. I go about the most important things, the values, the priorities, my kids, my wife, you know, the most important levers of my life. And I would do that to the best of my ability. So I think as men, if we really did know a fraction more of our true potential, we would say, yeah, this distraction is not worth it. That's the enemy of my potential, or how I'm using this currently. Because I'm a big believer this is a powerful tool for good as well. But if I'm not using it correctly, that's where I get hung up. And I got to always shift and kind of recalibrate. So if you're listening, your potential is way too powerful to sleep on it. So wake up, step into your greatness, step into your potential, and do it from a place of love, because you get to share you with your world. You get to share who you are with the people you love the most. And what better gift can you give the world? We're all here for unique purpose, unique expressions of God. You get to be an answer to prayer for someone. You get to be the reason someone didn't choose to leave this life. You know what I'm saying? There's no doubt people in your life. So you get to be a part of something very special. So have the love and respect for yourself to take care of yourself. Start small, 1% increments, and just freaking keep growing. And surround yourself with guys who remind you of that.
Couldn't have said it better.
And we're honored, bro. We're honored that you share space with us. I mean, this is the same thing we talk about. You be the community you want to see. Like attracts like. When you're doing things intentionally, when you're living from love, you attract the same thing. And you know, the best thing we did was just come together knowing we can change the world, starting with our world, and then we connect with like-minded guys.
You don't have to have a plan.
Yeah.
Just gather. Come to the table. That's it.
Man, don't be afraid to like actually say how you feel. You know, like just don't be afraid. I think get comfortable with being uncomfortable when it comes to sharing. You know.
Boom. It's a wrap. It's about time we came together like that, boys.
It's been a while.
Thanks for bringing us together, MC.